Alrighty, everyone. This is Matt back here with another video for y'all. Appreciate y'all for watching this. Once again, I'm sorry about yesterday, guys. I wasn't able to make a really detailed, long video. I had a lot of stuff going on. We had to go out and get groceries, kind of stuff like that. But I got on and we were able to get some information out to you guys. I hope it reached enough people that could potentially reach. Alrighty, guys. We're going to go ahead and talk about what's going to be happening today. We will be doing live severe weather coverage today. I am also in today's extreme risk zone here in the Ohio Valley, so kind of be mindful of that as well, guys, when we're on stream today. If something happens, I may have to go. It just happens. We are looking at a damaging wind event today. Two areas today up in the plains and here in the Ohio Valley, Kentucky Valley, Illinois, Indiana, we'll be looking for damaging winds this morning, this mid-afternoon, and then another line that'll be coming through tonight. And then tomorrow we'll have another setup, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we'll have another setup. It's going to be this continuation over the next 3 to 4 days where we're going to have these rounds of lines of storms that'll come through. Tornado potential overall is not extremely high. It is there, so it's something we have to monitor and something we have to pay attention to. The damaging wind threat will be the biggest threat out of all this, and then we'll have hail up in the northern plains. Now, like I said, with yesterday and the day before's threat, they kind of did not verify a little bit. We didn't really have enough, I think, we had a pretty strong capping inversion over the plains that kind of helped some of these storms from firing off. So I do think today and tomorrow will be the bigger days as far as severe weather goes. Kind of talked about this on Saturday and Friday of last week when we were getting into the discussion of having this week go kind of a little bit crazy with severe weather. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. We're also still watching the tropics. We are now at a 50% chance of having a tropical depression or storm develop in the Atlantic Ocean. This is now steering more and more and more towards, the eastern side of Florida. There are still some models, some of the GFS, some of the icons, some of the other models are showing this still going a little bit west. The overall consensus is starting to shift more east over into parts of just the southeast coastline. So we may not have land interaction next week. We may have land interaction. It just kind of depends on, what unfolds with this system. And we may have a hurricane, we may have a tropical storm, we may have a depression, we may have nothing. Who knows what's going to happen with this? So we'll talk about that here in just a second. But I want to go ahead and dive into the severe weather. We do have a slight risk over Kentucky, over Indiana, over Illinois. We have a marginal risk that goes from North Dakota and Minnesota and Wisconsin all the way down to Georgia. And if you're in that green shaded area here, I do want to make something known. This is what's called a conditional risk. So daytime heating happens, the sun comes out, instability happens, the dew points are up in the upper 60s and 70s. You get lift, you get that mechanism where storms can initiate. If you're anywhere in that green shaded area, there's a lot of states. You got Iowa, Minnesota, the Ohio Valley, all the way down into the mid-Atlantic and southeast and into the northern plains there. If you're not in that yellow slight risk, just be mindful. General thunderstorms could produce gusty winds up to maybe 60 miles an hour and some small hail. If you were in that slight risk, those are the two areas that we're going to be talking about. And we're really going to be more focused today and tonight on the Ohio Valley and northern plains. With the Ohio Valley, we have a line of storms that's actually coming through right now, and we're going to be watching this here this morning in my backyard because we're in Kentucky. This is kind of a faded line. This storm system did not actually produce a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings last night. The overall thought process was this could be, this couldn't be. It's just kind of one of those MCS convective setups. It's a little bit messy, but we are starting to get a little bit of reconvection ongoing here. So I'm watching this potentially here in the Evansville, Owensboro area, potentially here into southern Illinois, western Kentucky, central Kentucky as this first line comes through. We could see a re-intensification. The sun is out here, partly cloudy skies, so we could see that lifting mechanism happen. We could see some showers and some storms kind of re-intensify. That is one line of storms. The bigger event is going to be happening later on tonight where we could see maybe even a potential small-scale derecho setup. I don't think that'll be happening. I think it'll just be a pretty strong MCS. We get the winds well over 65, 70 miles an hour in that MCS tonight. The tornado risk has also been upgraded to a 5% chance there in parts of northern Illinois and Indiana. We'll talk about that here in just a second as well. It's going to be more of a conditional spin-up tornado risk along that line. Any supercells that do fire off this afternoon will have that chance to go tornadic, and then they'll work their way south. Today's storm motion is going to be a little bit different. Typically, most of the time we watch storms kind of go west to east. Today, we're going to be watching storms go south or north to south. So it's going to be a little bit of a different motion today, and we'll play that out here in just a minute. But you can see those showers and storms from this faded line kind of working its way east here, and we'll see rain move into the Kentucky and into the Ohio River Valley here very, very soon, if not already happening here. The other area that we're going to be focused on as well is going to be the slight risk over the northern plains. This includes northern Nebraska, parts of South Dakota, and southern North Dakota. And this is going to be primarily a hatched wind risk, meaning we could see winds anywhere in this hatched area today. This is going to be a slight risk, like I said. Anywhere in this yellowish slight risk area today, we could see winds over 75 miles an hour, so that'll be another complex that could potentially develop, or just embedded supercells that produce damaging winds over 75 miles an hour. There is also a 2% tornado risk in this area today. We'll actually go ahead and show you guys that tornado risk here. That way we can pop that up. There's a 2% here, meaning there's a 2% chance of there being a tornado within a 25-mile radius of a given point. It's conditional, to kind of be mindful of that. But the bigger tornado risk, like I said, is going to be over southern Indiana, central Indiana, eastern Illinois, and just portions of northern Kentucky here. So Louisville area, Jasper, Bloomington. I wouldn't be surprised if this does get shifted around a little bit with the next update at 11:30 this morning. We could even add maybe a wind upgrade potentially. So there's going to be some modifications to this risk zone throughout the day today. Just kind of be mindful of that. If you guys are watching this video this morning or later on this afternoon, there'll probably be some updates throughout time. But like I said, we will be live streaming this afternoon, so no worries on that end of things. So that 5% tornado risk there in the maroon and then 2% in the green from Chicago all the way down to almost Nashville, Tennessee, we could see a tornado risk. And like I said, it is conditional. So just kind of be mindful of that with any type of supercells or storms that do fire off today. And then we'll go and we'll look at that wind threat as well here. And that wind threat is going to be a 15% in the yellow, 5% in the maroon, and then a 15% hatched here, meaning we could see winds over 75 miles an hour from Bismarck down to Sioux Falls almost. And then we've got a little marginal risk over here in the Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore area. This is going to be for wind and hail over there. It's a marginal risk. And then also the hail risk for today is not zero. We could see hail 5% there in the maroon on both ends, and then a 15% hatch, which we could actually see hail 2 inches or greater today in that yellow slight risk. So that is day one. Tomorrow, guys, we're going to do it again, where we're going to have more severe weather, a big old marginal risk from North Dakota down to the Carolinas again, all the way down to the coast. So we go from Canada to the coastline with a marginal risk tomorrow. I do see some modifications being done with this as well, potentially on what happens with tonight into the morning hours of tomorrow, what's left over, what happens tomorrow. So this is going to be a day-to-day event, but depending on what happens to the day prior. So there is a marginal risk in the green. Be mindful again, like I said in the first day for today, you know, if you're in that marginal risk, we could see wind and hail potentially anywhere across the board with that. It's very conditional and isolated. But in that slight risk tomorrow, we have a pretty big 2% tornado risk as well here for parts of the Midwest and northwestern Ohio River Valley area. This includes parts of Iowa. This includes Illinois. This includes eastern Missouri. This is going to be a level 2 risk out of 5, slight risk, meaning we could see wind again. So these are going to be wind leading events. Today, like I said, is wind and tornado potential. But for tomorrow, like I said, we got a pretty big 2% tornado risk that includes Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. Almost all of Iowa is in a tornado risk tomorrow. Parts of Illinois, Indiana, here, Chicago, you're in this again. If you just had that derecho last week, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this again. No, this is just going to be potentially a conditional tornado risk today. I don't think it's going to be like anything we had last week. That wind risk tomorrow as well is also going to be a 15% in the yellow, 5% in the maroon. The overall threat for this, like I said, is going to be damaging winds and the hail for tomorrow as well. Also be a 5% or a 2%, sorry, 5% chance. Also, we go to our day 3 forecast. We have one more day of severe weather being forecasted right now, and that's another marginal and slight risk, and this also stays in the northern Ohio Valley. We get into parts of the northeast here as well. Marginal risk from Pittsburgh all the way up to North Dakota. General thunderstorms once again. Wind and hail would be the primary threats, and then we will also have possibly a tornado risk here in the Sioux Falls, Iowa, Minnesota, eastern Nebraska, and eastern South Dakota area. So when we get more information on that tomorrow in tomorrow's forecast, we'll talk more about that. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the overall timing of what we could be seeing today. We'll go ahead and we'll start up here in the northern plains to kind of give you guys an idea of that, because the northern plains are a little bit more of an easier forecast. What's going to happen today? There's a lot of models that show different initiation points in the Ohio Valley today. We'll get to that here in just a quick second. Pull up our 12Z forecast for you guys. Get that composite reflectivity on. All right. And so here's what we're going to be looking at today. Showers and storms this morning, you know, are non-existent. Right around the 3 and 4 o'clock hour, we'll start to see, you know, supercells pop off here. Could see a couple complexes down here in a part of Sioux Falls, Sioux City, but it looks to be overall just general isolated supercells all the way till about midnight, and then we'll have a little line maybe push through Fargo, Grand Forks area. But the overall threat for today, like I said, is going to be, you know, isolated cells that produce that 75 mile an hour higher wind threat. And then as we go through tomorrow morning, we'll see storms kind of linger over into parts of Minnesota, parts of Iowa here. This will kind of, you know, fall through tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll see storms initiate again tomorrow afternoon. And you can see Iowa getting a lot of those storms into parts of Illinois, and we'll see maybe even another complex to develop at some tomorrow. Back here into the Ohio River Valley, watching this broken line of storms possibly re-intensify maybe. We'll kind of watch and see if that happens or not. If not, then, you know, that would make tonight a little bit more of a serious event potentially. So, you know, watching that line eventually kind of fade out as we get closer and closer to the lunchtime hour here, and then that will kind of go away. General thunderstorms, maybe some isolated severe weather down here into the Carolinas, parts of Tennessee, into parts of Georgia, Virginia here, getting into some of these isolated wind and hail events. But as we go through tonight, we're going to see that official line of storms potentially start to develop in the parts of northern Indiana. And what this is going to do is it's going to start to work its way down south. And we could potentially see a pretty significant damaging wind event from north to south today, from Indianapolis down to central Kentucky. And this is going to be that second line of storms that comes through. And this is strictly going to be between 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. tonight and 3 and 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. So this could be a pretty significant wind event. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the live stream tonight. Make sure y'all stay tuned to just your weather stations. You have your weather radio set up, your alerts on your phone, because this could produce maybe some QLCS tornadoes potentially, and then we'll have that damaging wind that unfolds with it. And then as we go into tomorrow, we'll see more storms fire off once again through the same areas. We can see another little setup here in Kentucky. I'm going to watch this area too. I might actually go out and chase this tomorrow potentially. And then as we go into the next day, we get into Wednesday's forecast and we got more storms. So it's going to be this continuation pattern, guys, all the way through Friday, basically, is what I'm saying with that tornado risk. It's just something that we're going to have to watch with that wind risk as well, that wind risk being the biggest threat. One more thing we're going to talk about, the tropics are getting very, very active here. We now have a 50% chance in the next 7 days of this area in the orange here becoming a tropical depression or tropical storm. We're watching our tropical wave just off that development region. So once this moves in there, those chances I think will kind of go up or they'll go down. We'll kind of meet, what we're going to be looking at with this. A lot of the models are pulling this still off the coastline. Some of the models are still pulling this into the Gulf of Mexico. So there's still a lot of uncertainty with this forecast. And the more the information and the closer that we get to this event happening, the more we'll know. So if you're in Florida, if you're along the southeast coastline, if you're in the Gulf of Mexico, kind of be mindful. If you're down here in the islands, parts of Havana, Kingston, Puerto Rico, you've got your little Lesser Antilles Islands here as well. Just kind of be mindful of that as we go through the next couple of days here. And then the Pacific Ocean being very, very active. Multiple areas, a high chance here of a tropical system developing into a tropical storm here soon. Got a couple other areas, so it's going to be very, very active in the tropics here as we go over the next couple of days. Now, one more thing I want to run over with you guys is going to be the European model run. We'll just kind of talk about what we're going to be seeing in general today and then just over the next couple of days. You can see our general thunderstorm forecast, that severe weather continuing to ongo across parts of the Ohio Valley. And then as we go through the weekend here, we'll start to see things kind of quiet down a little bit. We'll watch that tropical system there off the coastline. You can see it down there on the bottom right of your screen. Potentially a small end low tropical depression or storm off the coast of the Carolinas. Maybe even a landfall interaction in Cape Hatteras or up in the beaches in the Carolinas there. So something we have to watch as we go into next Sunday and Monday. But overall, high pressure sets in next week. General thunderstorms kind of limit a little bit, and we'll start to see maybe a quieter pattern is what I would like to say as we go towards that second week of August. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to get through the next couple days, guys. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Make sure y'all have alerts on for my live notifications today. If you don't, make sure you have a way just to get notifications in general for your weather in your areas. Be safe, guys. Be weather aware, and I will see you guys on stream.